So what I'm going to do at this point, and because of time, I want to make sure that you have an opportunity to ask some questions. So we're just going to go through this real quick, and the first question is going to go to Jack. Jack, overview of existing capacity in the Bakken and Williston Basin.
Well, I'm glad you asked that, Jim, since I prepared an answer. Production and associated gas production, oil production and associated gas are growing dramatically as we speak. No mystery there. North Dakota supplants Alaska as number 2 producing state. Texas is producing north of 650,000 barrels a day. Optimistic estimates. Believe it or not, I heard one, it was a new one for me, 1.5 million a day by 2020. I think that's a little optimistic, but I thought where we are now is optimistic, so take that for what it's worth. Much of that scenario depends on added takeaway capacity, increases in available labor pool, sustained growth in infrastructure and support services, and whatever the number is, maximizing recovery from the primary first flush of producing wells is a multiple decades enterprise. Not difficult to forecast technological advances that will be game changers, not unlike the recent advances in horizontal drilling and hydraulic fracturing. And those are not just applicable to North Dakota. Eastern Montana has substantial upside as well. And that's one of the things that's overlooked, and a lot of the focus is on North Dakota. But you have 5 very solid producing counties in northeastern Montana that have a terrific upside as well. So I would, in addition to what I said about North Dakota, I would take a look at the Montana Petroleum Association, which is based in Billings. What is going to happen in northeastern Montana is very much like what is happening across western North Dakota. I would ask you to view I would ask each of you to view this as a multiple state opportunity, because a lot of the infrastructure and a lot of the demand for services and product is moving over into Minnesota, and it's also moving into South Dakota. We've seen dramatic growth in Rapid City. So it's not just western North Dakota. It's not just Bismarck west of the state line. It's South Dakota, it's Minneapolis. We just did this in Bloomington a few months back. And I can tell you that the economic activity is mushrooming in those places as well.
Thanks. Ken, how has the increased production in the Bakken and Williston Basin affected the United States? And adding one more thing, can we drill our way up?
Well, I think we can. I agree with Governor Schaefer. We can drill into public policy. We can find energy independence in North America. But I think we should think about it in terms of North America, and that is to include Canada with its massive potential in hydrocarbons, as well as Mexico. But I think between drilling and policy, that the United States can be energy independent, and it actually should be. We'll find that the giants economically in this world for the 21st century are the ones that are energy independent. I would not want to be in this political landscape internationally without being able to manage my own energy affairs. And one thing we as a people have to keep in mind is everything in our lives, everything comes from 2 and only 2 sources. We either grow stuff on top of the ground or we mine it from underneath. Stuff just doesn't show up. You don't get cyclohexanol for polyvinyl chloride from anywhere except oil. And that makes plumbing for your bathroom. The nylon rayon background we wear, colored crayons, cosmetics, salicylic acid that goes into aspirin. It comes from the source, and it happens to be crude oil. So anything from vinyl, items that go into our heart valves, surgery, it's absolutely critical to how an industrialized country continues to survive in the 21st century. Polymers, coatings, adhesives, just doesn't show up. It's got to be produced in the vast majority as oil. We absolutely have to become energy independent.
Thank you. Yeah, matter of fact, it's always interesting when people are blogging negative things on their iPad. Without petroleum, there would be no iPad. Tony, how much additional infrastructure is needed, and especially the pipeline?
Well, Jeff, if you could pull up that second slide that I have, which was developed by the North Dakota Pipeline Authority, which is a quasi-North Dakota state aid group that looks at how do they best encourage pipeline development in the state, both for oil and gas. It's the other one. Tony, 350, you have 2 of them. what you'll find is on here, on this is a relatively complex graph that they've put together. When you see it, you get a sense of, you look at here's the production forecast, which are the two lines. The two lines, the only difference there is best case, perhaps worst case now, I would say. Getting up to 1 million barrels in 2017 is not a worst case scenario. It's still a pretty good deal. But you can see where the oil production is being proposed as far as where the development is happening as far as total volume. You'll see today where we are. Pipelines don't meet the capacity in North Dakota. I will argue pipelines are the safest, most efficient, and cost-effective way in which to transport energy, whether that's petroleum, oil, natural gas, jet fuel, you name it. You want it in the pipeline that's properly maintained, properly designed, properly constructed, properly operated. You then see these proposed projects. There's a number of new pipeline expansions that are on the books today, working to get contracted with producers. We don't build pipelines on a speculative basis. Obviously, when I mentioned the Alliance Pipeline was a $4.5 billion investment in 1999. We have some big dollars that are long-term capital investments. And then you see rail that picks up the capacity on top of that. There's been several rail terminals built in North Dakota to take away the oil that you can put in a tank and you can then take it to market. The good part of rail is it's got flexibility. You can go to different markets. Pipelines typically take you to one path or to one refining center, whether that's a Cushing, whether that's down here in Joliet to the Mobile refinery or over to the BP refinery outside of Gary, Indiana. So there's a variety of ways, but you can see that there's a huge build that will be underway both in pipelines as well as some rail facilities to pick up on the backlog as well.
Thank you. And we're going to combine the last three. And we're going to put it on you, Jack, for a quick, because again, I want to open up because I know there's going to be some questions out here. What type of oil and gas facilities are needed? And that really ties back into what type of investment are the major oil companies going to be making while we're out there.
Well, I have a fundamental answer to that one. In addition to the pipes in the ground, we need that. I think probably the most critical need is gas plants because the public outcry against flaring is dramatic. There's an economic value to the resource. You'd rather not burn it. But if you're going to get the money to build the gas plant, you have to sell the crude, and you can't sell the crude unless you get rid of the gas. So it's kind of a circular argument here. We need that ability to harvest the gas. Gas plants can cost up to $100 million. We have 2 of them. We are building one out in Belfield, just west of Dickinson, as we speak, but that's an expensive enterprise. So you typically try to get a partner. We have a partner in our gas plant in Robinson Lake. So as far as investment goes, I just want to make one observation about crude and the hubbub about price. Well, crude is like whiskey. They never have priced at what it's worth. So whatever it costs, it's probably of value to you. You think about a 25-cent a gallon increase in gasoline, that translates to about a penny additional a mile for your driving. So you're going to pay an additional penny for an additional 25 cents. The other thing that I would tell you is that oil and gas companies like mine are price makers. I said that exactly wrong. We are price takers, not price makers. We sell it for whatever we can get. Right now it's about 89 bucks a barrel. It's been as high as 140. It's been recently as low as whatever it was, 60. So we take whatever the market gives us, and our activity varies accordingly. With all of that said, I'll tell you that most exploration production companies of any size spend virtually their entire cash flow plus in capital expenditures. In 2012, we're going to spend $1.9 billion with an estimated cash flow of 1.75. So the rest of it comes from our credit line. Half of our cash flow goes to the Bakken. For other large players like Marathon, SCOG, and so forth, they'll spend $1 billion or more for the coming at least next 5 years. Oasis, Kodiak, companies like that will spend their entire cash flow in the Bakken. Likewise, service companies like Schlumberger, Halliburton, Neighbors Drilling, Key Energy Services, they'll continue to make the major investments because activity is going to continue to ramp up for somewhere ranging between 5 and 10 years, the activity will continue to ramp up. I'd say the face of the state has changed permanently, and it will continue to do so, and that's because of the money that we're all spending, the investments that you're making, and the outlook that we've heard here. I think it's a tremendous opportunity. It's not even the end of the beginning. We're coming to the end of the beginning, but that means at least 30 more years of the kind of activity that we've already seen.